I'm feeling regal, resplendent, magnificent, all of those good things. And I want to pass those great feelings on to you. You often hear Ubuntu. Ubuntu means, because we are, I can be. And that's how we look at it here every weekend on Weekend Deal. I remember it was on May 27th, precisely, when we were chatting with Right Honorable Sam Onwigbo. He said he had the privilege of visiting over 500 local government areas in Nigeria. Indeed, it's a privilege. We know we often take you on nationwide tours. We do it with culture and tourism. We do it with our rich cuisine, our rich cultural and traditional entertainment. Today I want to do it in a very regal way, magnificent, because it's all about us, our rich cultures, different parts of Nigeria, what makes us resplendent, magnificent, and is coming to the forefront today on Weekend Deal as we tackle and showcase and highlight royal palaces and regalias. I know you don't want to miss any bit of this, so you got to stay with us. Stay tuned to Weekend Deal. My name is Thelma Obaze. Weekend Deal. You're watching Weekend Deal. It's all about royal palaces and regalia. For the love of country, we do it in a regal manner, majestically, resplendent way. And it's all those thoughts in mind that Francis beckons on Professor Oluroti Ojo to talk about our rich culture with special focus on our regal palaces and royal regalias. Don't take it from here.
In every community, there are two sacred institutions, the palace of the traditional ruler and the market. These two places are so sacred, even in times of war. There are places that they are tagged as no-go area. Once those two places are destroyed, then the entire community is destroyed. So, in terms of aesthetic designs, the palace are always very unique, because the image presented by the look of the palace is the image of the community. And that is why all resources, are geared towards the palace in terms of beautification, in terms of artistic works. And don't forget, in the past, most of the artisans, craftsmen, best one in the community are always in the palace. And that is why they pick the best out of the best craftsmen, artisans in the community, even beyond the community, for any amount to be resided in the palace. And their job is nothing but just to beautify on daily basis. Go to the Oba of Benin's palace or near Ofife. Even Alaafin of Oyo, we have most of these craftsmen within around the palaces, doing what? Trying to see how they can reshape the palace on daily basis. The traditional rulers, their regalia is always very elegant and very sophisticated, from the top to down. Because no matter where you go, that they must see that pride, prestige of a king in you, and that accords the respect for a king. Ọba òun ká máa ń rìn tàǹsákì lára ẹ̀. That is the pride. That is the glory of a king. So, in most cases, kings always give very special designers to design their clothes. And expectedly, the clothes of the king should be different from the subjects. And that is the difference between the subjects and the king. The gown, the agbada, or the big gown, also commands respect from the people and the other subjects. The beads symbolizes the wealth of the king and of the community. We have different beads, glass beads, and so many beads of different kinds. Symbolizes blessing, wealth, and economic prosperity of the society. And that explains why most of the traditional rulers in Africa always wear their beads, either inside the palace or even on occasions. And all royal members, family members of the kings, princes and princesses, must always put it on because it's a form of identity. The crown it symbolizes authority and ancestral link, because the crown is very spiritual, and it is the one that connects the present king with his ancestors. And that explains why most traditional rulers are forbidden from looking inside the crown. It was called a war, abomination in some places. You see, the crown are of different types. During coronation, the original crowns were given to the king, and the king wears that particular crown occasionally. Festive, like in Ile-Ife or Olojo festival, very special occasions and events. And that does not mean that the king must not have other crowns. But no matter what, the king must always put on his crown. The walking stick is also an authority. Yoruba call it Opa Ashe. The horsewhip, which is fly whisk, Irukere, also symbolizes blessing. Because in most cases, when you go to a traditional ruler with the fly whisk, which Yoruba call Irukere, we just put it on your head, you bow, you put it on your head, it symbolizes blessing for that person. And it's also a mark of authority. And the shoe is also authority. So by the time you look at the dressing or the robe, the costumes of a traditional ruler, from head to toe, you can say, summarily, you can say it has economic importance, spiritual, which is religious importance, social importance, and cultural importance.
Our focus on Weekend Deal today will be royal palaces and regalia of traditional rulers in Nigeria.
That is how we set the tone on Weekend Deal in the most royal manner possible. It's about us. It's who we are. And of course, we've come to learn that not just anyone can walk in and sit on a throne. Little matter how fashionable dressed you are. Royalty comes from lineage, and that's how we can welcome one of our own, the Sape of Garki, His Royal Highness Alhaji Usman Ungakupi.
Thank you.
Great to have you with us on Weekend
Thank you very
Deal.
much. Good morning.
Wow. Nice. We have royalty in our midst. Mr. Oludotun Oshunsoya is a cultural administrator and a former staff of the National Council of Arts and Culture. Good to have you on Weekend Deal.
My pleasure.
We're
Thank you
seated
for having me.
amidst royalty.
Yes, so
Have we welcomed His Royal Highness?
you're most welcome, Your
Thank you
Royal
very much.
Highness.
Good morning. Good morning.
It's great to have you in our midst. Like I said earlier, I'm feeling royal. It must be my company today.
Yes, no problem.
We'll continue our discussion with His Royal Highness. For now, we're going to join our friends in Cross River State. They bring for us today something totally exciting. And we'll get to learn of the tripodal nature from the rich royal heritage in Calabar when we spend time with the Obong of Calabar. His Eminence, Ekpo Oko Abasio II the Fifth.
In South Nigeria, Cross River State to be precise, the Efik people commonly exist within Calabar South, Calabar Municipality, Akpabuyi, Bakassi, and Odukbangi local government areas of the state. An organized stock. The people uphold a revered ancestral culture and tradition which includes their dress pattern. These has transcended generations. As part of the zeal to maintain an orderly society, effort globally is headed by the Obong, who is a traditional and spiritual leader.
Before the advent of the Europeans coming into this country, coming into Calabar, this kingdom, the Efik kingdom, actually spread through all the nooks and corners of Calabar, part of Akwa Ibom, part of rivers, and beyond. So really, the kingdom has been there and well established.
The council is made up of the Obong, Etubums, who are representatives of the various Efik families, Etinians, and the Otuekons. For easy identification and maintenance of order, the Otuekons, in their traditional dressing, wear a woven headgear called bida, with black tassels on them. The Etinians are identified by the purple tassels on their headgears, while the Etubums have the woven headgears with a drop at the back, hoisting red tassels at the top.
Our dressing is not just by mistake or happenstance. It is deliberate, and it tells a very deep story about who we are, our history, where we are going, and what we have attained.
At regular outings, the Obong wears the big shirt, a long traditional tie, a loin cloth, beaded shoes, a woven cap displaying insignias of the 12 ancestral clans of the Efik, with leopard skin as a sign of authority, and his staff of office in hand. The king's procession is usually accompanied by the royal guards, blowing and heralding on Nwabaka, having with them the royal sword, Akanka, and the scepter of divinity, Ika. To become an Obong, the chosen must pass through 2 coronations. The traditional coronation at the royal shrine, Efe Sabo, and the Westminster style coronation at the church. During the traditional coronation, he wears a special attire called Ikbaya, and at the church, the Obong is dressed in a royal robe, a golden crown, having in his hands an up, a scepter, and usually presented with a copy of the Holy Bible.
The throne is a tripodal throne. What I mean by that is it sits on Ubong, which is royalty, Ekpe, which is the society with which law and order was established in society, and Ndem, which is the old, ancient, traditional religion. So those are the three legs on which the Efuk throne sits. And there's representation of this even in the dressing and in the ceremonies that take place. Now, the Efuk king is also known as the defender of the Christian faith because a few centuries ago, they had decided to imbibe the Christian faith.
As a sitting king, he rules from a palace decorated with various accoutrements to include a wooden gun, obodom, used to summon his subject, an eagle, ndurukbom, which is a symbol of power, strength, and greatness, an entry door engraved with the image of Ekbe, signifying authority among others. Visitors to the palace are usually received from the gate after appeasement of the gods.
We have the Akata, which you've seen inside the palace. Akata is the stool that Obong sits when he is taken to the shrine that is made the Obong of Calabar.
From Cross River State, Calabar precisely, we come back to the Federal Capital Territory, and like we told you, it's all about first-class travel today. Everyone come on board and be a part of our rich, though diversely cultured royal palaces and regalias. Earlier, we introduced His Royal Highness Alhaji Usmanu Gakupi. He's the Sape of Gariki, and it's time to chat with him for a few. We welcome you again.
Thank you very much.
We're talking about our royal palaces and regalias. When did you ascend the throne, His Royal Highness?
Well, thank you very much. I ascended the throne on 1st June 1990.
1990?
Yes, I'm 33 years now.
Oh, that's quite a while.
Thank you very much.
But before then, you watched your father or your uncle who was there before you?
Yeah, it was my granddad.
Your granddad?
That was there because we have 3 ruling houses, which is rotational. So when the other late chief died on the other house, it came to our own turn. Though I wasn't the only person, there were some other people who were also interested. And I remember then, when they invited me, I was a classroom teacher with the Government Sunday School, Gwagwalada, and I told them I cannot come to that seat. Why? Because I'm an orphan. And you know, orphans, you know what it takes. But along the line, elders then, I think they might have checked, maybe consult their oracles, and then maybe realize it was only me that I can be able to wear the shoes. And that's why I'm there.
And humbly, you ascended the throne.
Yes, I humbly the throne.
With a lot of pomp and pageantry, I'm sure. Big ceremonies. We just heard from Calabar that there are 2 coronations. What was yours like?
Well, you see, when we talk of traditional institution, it involves a sort of spiritual aspect of life, and depending on the different ethnic and tribal and the area where you belong to. Like we have just watched that of the Obong, is their culture, norms, and value. Having known we are all human beings, and the only thing that can differentiate human beings is their culture, their norms, their values, and tradition. And that is why, holistically and globally, we can only be identified through all these things that I have just mentioned. So coming back home to my own aspect, my own system, when it was our own turn, elders having said consult oracles, So the modern religion is there now. That's Islam, Christianity.
Yeah.
And some of my people, like that I can say, some of them, they were also believing on that tradition. So normally, not all traditions are normally allowed people to know. Some of them are sacred.
Sacred.
Yes, sacred.
Okay.
So it is you that you have been
That's yes.
coronated, or you have been invited.
Getting the coronation,
for
yes.
coronation. It is only you and the people who are within the cycle
That know the
that
process
knows
and procedure.
the procedure that can
Interesting.
be there. Because there are some issues that they need to open up.
Yeah.
Global.
We understand, His
Thank
Royal
you very
Highness. Interesting. Let's talk with you, our cultural administrator, Mr. Olodotu Oshunsoya.
Yeah.
Let's talk about regalia now.
Yes.
We know that everything that Obangs, Obas wear, they have a rich heritage.
Yes.
They are symbolic in nature,
Yes.
and they have a meaning. In your own, with your own expert opinion, let's talk about the regalia
Yes.
that our highnesses wear.
Yes. Well, the very interpretation of regalia is actually the official wear of royalty. It normally consists of many things. Usually there's an inner wear, which the norm will have. For most royalty, there's a part of their dressing that they never remove. That is, once they are not in their bedroom, for example, you find that at the very least, most royalty don't expose their head. It does not matter how private the area where they are is. But beyond that, when they want to go for official outing, they have outer wear, like His Royal Highness, the blue. But one thing that must be known about it is that, especially in traditional settings, regalia were the highest level of artistic expression of any people. Because as at that time, only royalty could pay artists for the kind of work that is involved in preparing the regalia. You'll see that the toga aspect of it now is not just sewn, there's very, very rich embroidery on it.
Woven.
Yes. Now, maybe in modern times with machines and all that, it could be cheaper doing it, it would take less time. But when, say a century ago, this was probably like 6 months' work for somebody. Only royalty could pay that kind of thing. You know? And then when you now talk of the scepter, which they hold in their hands, where crown is involved, you find that the crown is also highly artistic. And then finally, you find that they have accoutrements which they wear
on the hand,
on the leg, where applicable, and all that. Even their shoes are high craftsmanship. High craftsmanship.
Interesting.
Yeah.
You know, when we learn about our cultural vastness and diversity, it almost seems as though we're traveling to different places, even though we're seated at one location. His Royal Highness, you're not alone here today.
Yes.
You are accompanied by your village head and a guard.
Yes.
And it does tell us that you don't leave your palace alone.
Yes.
But you're coming to a peaceable environment like the NTA.
Well, you see, once you're a leader, traditionally, you are expected to at least carry somebody along with you. First and foremost, you serve as safeguarding your life. It's part of security aspect, because you are not expected to move single, because if anything happens, may God forbid, if something happens wrong, the cabinet people, your council people, they will have to make their find on what happened. So it is a mandatory. Wherever you are moving to, you must get at least one or two or more people
to accompany
you. And wherever you are going, they also monitor your activities and then also advise you. In the normal circumstances, when you are going on convoy or with big people, at least there are some people who have to foresee first to guide you. If there are something that's going wrong somewhere else, maybe if you cannot see them, maybe the other person will be able to tell you, look,
I heard.
you have to.
His Royal Highness,
You
divert,
understand?
take
You
this
divert,
turning.
you understand? So, in most cases, that is what the traditional leader need to, because you are expected as
You are a royal.
a royal and a spiritual. At least you should be able to investigate what may likely be coming.
Indeed, and be
So,
prepared.
and be prepared for it.
Prepared. Interesting. Mr. Oshunsoya, when we went to Calabar, we were told about the tripodial nature of the crown
stone, yeah.
or cap that the obong wears.
Yes.
They said the obong is linked to reality, that's one aspect. Then the ekbe talks about society.
Yes.
And the idem is a link to the ancestors.
Yes.
So it tells us that even though we see one person, they are hardly ever alone.
Yes, that's quite correct. But before we go into that, I happen to be a theater artist, and in the theater we say that the king is played by the people, and what that means is that when you see, even if he had not come in full regalia today, by the time you see him surrounded by people, you know that this man is not ordinary. So that is one of the reasons why royalty at that level does not move alone. Because it is the people that a king does not go about announcing himself, but the presence of his people announce him that, okay, it may not even be king, but it's definitely an important
Somebody
person.
important.
Yes. Then, talking about the Calabar experience, we had talked about the fact that every part of the regalia is high artistic work. But there's a second aspect to it, the spirituality. Every kingdom has some symbol that is important to it. And most of the time you find that these symbols are embedded in the regalia, so that those who know, the moment they see him, in fact, they know not just that he's royalty, but the certain very specific information is transmitted to them. For example, I'm sure people from his kingdom, aside from knowing that he is the traditional ruler, once they look at him and what he's wearing, they can tell you, okay, it comes from this place. He's an inheritor of so and so tradition. These symbols and inscriptions are usually specific in meaning, but only those who are insiders can interpret them.
Will know. Yes. They have direct messages.
Yes.
His Royal Highness Sape of Garki, let's talk about what your regalia embodies. Like we talked about, you go to different places. Today you are with NTA.
Yes.
Tomorrow you'll be going for a big ceremony, perhaps a wedding, perhaps a child dedication, perhaps a national conference, you know. So what determines what you wear?
Well, let me just digress more. You know, when we're talking of culture, the culture is being interwoven. You know, man is not an island. Like, for instance, we in the northern part of Nigeria, I'm a Igbaji by ethnic. Hausa, Fulani, as the north, particularly my host, like the Emir of Suleja, you know, which were from there. So most of the activities, most of our dress are interwoven. However, as a Igbaji man, we have our different type of dresses. Most of our dresses are black in nature, prior to British colonialism. Like my brother who have just spoken, most of our dress then, they were being sewn by our local people. And the one meant for the traditional institution, in most cases, it's only people who were selected. And then when they are sewing all these kind of dresses for us a regalia, it's not in most cases, they don't do it outside. They have a place whereby they can stay, like you go to Ushapa, because there are the people who are showing our dresses.
An enclosed place? Was
yes,
it within the palace?
No, it could be within the palace, or it could be within their own domain. But they will not allow other people, generality, to know what is
to come and see. Because it's royal, it's sacred.
It's royal. So it is being protected. And in most cases, when you are in that, you that you are sending, you have some other things that have to be incorporated within the dress.
Our culture, our cultural heritage in Nigeria is so rich. And it's this, in spite of its diversity, we are unified with love for one another. We have intermarried, we have intermingled over time, and that's how we can stand and share our ideas and thoughts today on Weekend Deal. His Royal Highness, we want to thank you for being a part of our program today.
Thank you very much.
His Royal Highness Alhaji Usman Gakupi,
thank you very much.
Sape of Garki. Thank you for lending your voice, your royal, aristocratic voice to our program today as we're chatting about royal palaces and regalias.
Thank you very much.
We'll take a break, and when we come back, we will continue to unveil the colorful and monarchical nature of our royal palaces and regalias in Nigeria. Don't go away. You're watching Weekend Deal. Our focus today is royal palaces and regalias. Before the break, we were talking with the Sape of Garki, His Royal Highness Alhaji Usman Gakupi, and our cultural administrator, Mr. Oludotun Oshunsoya. We have been joined at this time by Ta Uko. Okay, yes. Say hello to Nigerians. They are watching you. You're smiling.
Hello, Nigerians. I'm happy today, and you can see me in my splendor.
Indeed.
Thank you,
So
Chelma.
can we describe you as a royal as a result of your regalia?
I'm a royal African.
A royal Nigerian.
Nigerian and African.
You like resplendent dressing.
Yes.
But your throne is on its way.
Yes.
Your throne hasn't yet come. It's interesting. It's going to get even more so now. We'll take our next feature. We're going to Osun State, when we touch base with the Oluwo of Iwo. When you talk about resplendence, elegance, sophistication, and colorful regalia, you will not be too far if you say that he's one of those in Nigeria who embody all of this. Let's go there.
Iwo, one of the most populous towns in Osun State, southwest Nigeria, with a major occupation of its people being farming, is positioned as a major trading center for cocoa, kola nut, yam, and timber. A land of rich cultural heritage known for the practice of Islam, Iwo dates back more than 4 centuries. The major heritage of Iwo land is the palace of Oluwo of Iwo, symbolized by the parrot, and where the young, colorful, and charismatic Oluwo of Iwo, Oba Abdul Rashid Akombi, Telu I, presides over the affairs of the town. Oba Abdul Rashid Akombi is a traditional ruler known for his unique fashion sense. His presence at any occasion commands attention as he turns up in well-adorned and oftentimes elaborate traditional attires.
I design all my clothes. I design my crowns. I tell even my fashion designer, I was the one that put him on that style. To be making crowns and to be making this kind of clothes. What he does before was shoes. He left Yaba Tech, he's from Iwo, then he comes here on excursion. Then one day I was fixing the road to Ibadan. He met me on the road with his and he said, and he came with the shoes that he makes, and I told him, no, this is not what I want for royalty. Go and do this. He tried, but then I told him, you know what? I want you to start making my clothes. I will tell you what to do. And I designed it.
You sketched it?
I sketched it for him. This is what I want. This is how I see royalty is supposed to be. And he started growing on it. And then I told him to go into crowns too.
Announced by his royal gait, dressed flamboyantly with different designs of royal crowns or caps, always sitting perfectly on his head, the Oluwo is one king who gives meaning to fashion and style.
We don't upgrade nothing. I am upgrading. I am upgrading here. I make, Ofi. I upgraded it. People are now using more Ofi. I wear Ofi more than any traditional ruler in this country. I wear our Ofi Ashoke. Yeah, I'm so comfortable in it. People say, oh, are you not hot? When you want to make exercise and you want to shrink yourself, there are people who go and wrap plastic wrap around their body. Me, when I'm wearing this, it's my own sort of exercise.
The Oluwo is not only known for his beautifully embroidered royal attires, he has also carved a niche for himself with the preservation of traditional history and heritage of Iwo land. Oba Abdul Rashid Akombi Telu I built a tower and named it after the founder of the town, Prince Telu Adekola. Atop the golden-colored tower, which is a significant and beautiful attraction to Iwo, sits the statue of a parrot, the official insignia of the Iwo people. Telu Square lends credence to Iwo as a town of Islam, tradition, and modernity.
We were so taken in by the resplendence of the Oluwo of Iwo, the colorful and often flamboyant regalia. But that does not narrow down the importance of some of the insignia. And talking about staff of office and the crown as well. Ta Uko, Pan-Africanist and cultural worker, let's take it from that point. We saw the parrot, the insignia. It was there at the palace, it was there at the center of the town. An insignia of that palace, of that traditional institution, of that domain. How impactful is that?
Well, first, the parrot is like the emblem of the coat of arms of that particular royal palace or that dynasty. And the parrot, of course, symbolizes wisdom, and the color itself is to show the regalness and beauty of that particular kingdom. So they have an essence of a symbolic presence of what exists in their community. And in my over 40 years of research on African colors and insignia of office of traditional regalia, I remember in 2004, for the first Democracy Day, I showcased the royal colors of Africa, which I still do all around African countries. And it's to show the importance of the political economy of production. What interests me in the king and the regent that you showed, and the Sapui, who was on your program earlier, is that these things are made as artisan crafts, is to build the production basis of their communities and local industry. So I'm interested in the cultural sustainability science of production. Indeed. I wear my clothes and I sell them. I don't just put it to look elegant. We must sell these things. If culture does not reproduce itself, then it's just mere aesthetics and it vanishes. If you look at the motifs in what we wear, also the colors represent our fauna and flora. The parrot is in that community. So it's also pedagogic. It teaches you and our children part of our cultural history, part of our cultural vegetation, the ecosystem of where we exist. Africans have colors. I'm wearing...
rich colors.
Yes, rich colors. Indeed. This is the Tiv Bendekuru.
You know, your home place?
Yes, my home
But you have
people.
other ties that bind.
This is the Nupe Pasa.
Indeed.
And among the Nupe, they have the cloth they call husband, vex me. If you upset your wife or you maltreat her, she wears that cloth to the public, and everybody says
knows that she's
you
upset.
did maltreat your wife. And the Itsu can call you and say, wait a minute, I saw your wife wearing husband vex me.
What
So,
happened?
so they have a way of culturally protecting their women and also stigmatizing the men to behave.
To behave well. Tell us about, just now we had some shots of your very colorful shoes.
Yes.
Are you sending a message as well?
I always dress like this. Shoes? From childhood, I realized that we have to show who we are as Africans. But the political economy of how we dress is very important. It is, I design my shoes like the king. I design my shoes and go to any local shoemaker to make my clothes. And the aesthetic, therefore, is to say, it is you, it's your identity that you market to the world.
Interesting.
You don't go and do things to showcase you are from Europe when you're an African, or wear dirty jeans and say you are crazy, which is, I think...
So when we see you anywhere in the world you are seen, it's very obvious, first off, that you are a Pan-Africanist and a cultural worker. But a pride for us in Nigeria too, a pride for Africa, and a pride for the world. Interesting. Okay, great one there. Well, nice colors, we saw nice color play, and it's also, you embody it.
This is Lupik Basa.
Interesting.
Yes.
No one is upset today. The husband didn't vex anymore. No. In fact, our historian is smiling, you know, at your gallant descriptive power. Let's talk about the role of insignias in our palaces. When we went to Calabar, we saw the Obong had a gong at his palace. We went to Osun now, we saw a parrot. When we go to Benin City, because of the program, we will see another insignia. What does it tell those who are coming to that place, to the palace, to that city? Does it speak, even though it looks silent?
Oh, sure. As I said earlier, when you look at the regalia, you find that there are symbols that are embedded. Some are artistic motifs, but it's not always just that. They have an affinity to a certain part of their fauna, which they embed there. In fact, talking about Calabar, the Ekpe thing is very significant because that's the traditional spiritual and political thing there. And one of the things they say about Ekpe is that Ekpe's hand is never empty. The Ekpe, which is actually from the animal kingdom, but they say it does not walk without a straight back, and it must always hold two things there. When you approach them, for example, if you want to offer drink, you cannot go with one drink. You must hold it this way. Talking about this last one that we saw, actually, it offered me something that I will need to go back and check.
Of Iwo.
Yes, and their choice of the parrot has triggered something in me. Why is that? I'm beginning to see from some of the symbols I saw that, you know, we asked ourselves the question, why did we see the parrot outside
and the lion
and then the lion inside? The lion is a more general symbol of authority than the parrot. But from one or two things that I know, I can begin to put one and two together as to the parrot. I'm beginning to think, and I'm going to do serious research about this, that at some point, maybe even up till now, Iwo was a place where parrots migrate to and from.
Indeed.
In fact, in Yoruba cultural view, there's a saying that says, "Ajoki kodi deremare wo." That is, there's no enjoyment that the parrot will experience anywhere in the world that it will not come back to Iwo. And that scientifically triggers the concept of the migratory birds. It means they see parrots at some point in the year, it goes away, and but they know that back. It does not matter
where it goes,
it must come.
Or how long it stays. Yes. It must come home. Yes. Interesting to its base. Yes. Let me talk with you again, Mr. Tauko. Earlier, when we went to Akure, we saw regents. We saw regents, females, who stand in the gap until an heir is brought to the fore. Yes. And we are told that while they are on that throne, they were totally and completely masculine embodiments. They dress like a man. If they are single, they do not marry. And if they are married, they do not procreate. while they're on that throne?
Well, it's the political sociology of the people. First, matriarchy is subservient to patriarchy in that society. So to restrict the quest for a powerful regent installing her own children, males or females, even females,
Yes.
is to try to limit the quest for power, knowing that human beings are human beings, and
their insatiable needs
yes,
and
so
wants.
that to me shows the evolution of matriarchy into patriarchy as a dominant. But you realize that they give her a lot of veneration. She does not depose, she does not enthrone, but she has that authority of cultural significance. And the matriarchy there is that mother is supreme. In my culture too is the same. When you run to your mother's house or your mother's place, it said metaphorically that you return to your womb.
Indeed.
And nobody can touch you.
Indeed.
But if you're in your father's place, anyone can arrest you.
Indeed.
Yes, so regency in Africa, not just Igbo, is the recognition that mother is Akure.
Okay.
In Yoruba land, all over Africa you have regents. Some have transformed even to queens and ruled their kingdoms. And the purpose here is that the regent is supposed to be a mother figure that stabilizes the political space of that particular culture.
Interesting. Now, there's a place we're going to. They call it the heartbeat of the nation.
Okay.
And we have a very powerful and dynamic ruler there, a very rich traditional system. In Benin, for example, we have the Oba of Benin. Tell me one thing you know about the Benin traditions and customs.
Of course,
that relates to the Oba.
the quintessential bronze
Interesting.
of Benin.
Interesting. What
Yes.
about you? What about you? What do you know about Benin City and its rich cultural heritage?
The royal presence of the Oba of Benin is something that is not missed anywhere. It is so well known, even before this time.
Before this time, many thousands of years ago, the Oba of Benin, Oba Ewai II Unsan, has given us a detailed description and let us into his royal palace and lineage. Let's see this.
Elegance, graceful, treasuring and outstanding. Is a list one can describe the Benin tradition and culture, which have thus carved a niche on the world map. One aspect of the Benin tradition that cannot be ignored is the traditional regalias of the Benin monarch, the ruler and custodian of the culture of the Edo people, His Royal Majesty, Oba Ewai II. His staff of office and regalias are adjudged not only to be symbolic, but also a creative work of art.
I, myself, or any other person, is bound to be amazed by the artistry, by the workmanship that they put into some of these regalia.
For the Benin monarch, Ada and Eben are scepters, which represent symbols of authority. Ada represents sword of honor, Eben represents sword of dancing.
The Eben can be used to bless, Oba can use it to bless anybody, can pray for anybody, can equally use it to curse.
The artistry of the Oba's attires also is depicted in various forms.
Everything that concerns the Oba's costume, regalia or whatever, is under the control of Iwebo Palace society. The Oba, in some occasions, comes out with a red robe. That is what we call Ododo, depending on the occasion and depending on what we really want to come out with.
From a bird's eye view, the palace of the Oba of Benin is a fulcrum of the Benin culture and heritage. It is given maximum reverence.
We believe that the Oba is the representative of God on earth. That one is one of the reasons why we revere our Oba. The Benin Palace is sacred. Sacred in the sense that traditionally there are areas made for men, there are areas made for women.
The monolithic nature of the Benin monarchy makes it very distinguished.
It's a monarchy that has no competitor. He is supreme. There is no other king within his own sphere of influence that share power with him.
Visitors to the palace, including non-natives, are expected to follow the traditions in strong terms.
It's a native environment, and it's a place where the people are very sensitive, creative, very industrious.
It is prohibited to wear black-colored attires to the palace, except for a certain group whose duty is sacred.
Naturally, the black connotes something negative. Anything that is outside positivity is not usually welcome in the palace.
Bronzes and artifacts still remain a noticeable part of the palace decorations, while the Benin tradition and culture remain the very reason why the Benins are so admired.
Back from Benin City, the heartbeat of the nation, to the FCT. You know, I was so enamored by the regal presence of the Oba of Benin. Oba Tokbae. He said, that's it. That's how to greet in the royal way. You were talking about the cultural and the royal beads that the Oba was wearing.
Coral beads are part of the paraphernalia of accessories. Because they come from the seashore, and they're very expensive, they're restricted to the elite, the aristocracy of different African kingdoms. And that shows wealth. And craftsmanship is important. In Africa, in any royal palace, that's where you have the best artisans, the best designers, the best of that culture, of the ecosystem of that place comes from the royalty, because they have the resources, the disposable income to pay. So I think this symbolism of power, of the sword and the different purposes, some are just imbued with metaphysical powers, metaphysical totemic thinking for the people to venerate.
We heard of the Ebe and the Ada.
Yes.
They're both swords. One is a sword of honor, one sword for dancing.
The sword of correction.
And that's
you have the rod of correction.
Yes, to bless you,
Yes,
to
yes.
pray for you.
Yes.
And when you err on the side of caution, or you disregard caution and you err, that sword brings something down on you that may seem like a curse, we are told.
Well, especially in like the Ekpe or the Ekpo.
The Ekpe.
The Ekpe, for instance, is like the contemporary siren that ushers in the head of state. Among the Efik, the Bibio. The Ekpe symbolizes the one that is in front to announce the power that is coming. So in that sense, these things are not just for the aesthetic enjoyment.
They are powerful.
Yes, they have intrinsic symbolism and meaning that are practical to the people.
Indeed.
So the courtiers also dress in different categories of insignia of office. And so I think that production process interests me in scholarship.
Indeed.
Yes.
Indeed. I know at some point you would definitely touch down there. You know, I saw a place where all the queens, you know, they sat down. What I know Benin to do, this is how the women sit with the white handkerchief on their noses, erect like this, very composed, all the time. When you see a woman, a royal, this embodies her stance and her sitting position. We have such a rich cultural heritage from that part of the nation. Let's talk, Mr. Oludotum. You talked about the comfort. When we spent some time with the Oluwo of Iwo, he talked about people asking him how comfortable is his dressing. When we spent time with the Oba of Benin, he also talked about his regalia, how he was being held on both sides.
One thing about royalty and leadership is that a point comes where the fact that you are symbolizing the people's psyche must supersede your comfort. And when you have to give up your comfort, there is no second thinking about it. And you'll see when we were in the Benin Kingdom, at certain points when he was most regal, when he was wearing lots of beads, because those beads are quite heavy, he actually needed to be supported to maintain his regalness. That does happen. Sometimes some of those crowns are so heavy that the king can only wear it for a limited period. One thing that is also related to it is that the people begin to so much believe in, you know, one of the kings said, one of the commentators there said, we believe that the king is the representative of God, amongst us.
Yes.
So it not only his presence, sometimes all they require is to place the crown on the
somewhere,
stool,
and everybody must
and
be.
everybody believes that the king is present.
Is present, and they obey.
And an extension of that is the fact that sometimes a king wants to attend a ceremony in a distant place, but it is not convenient for him. It is accepted practice around there.
Send an insignia of office.
Insignia of
Interesting.
Yes.
Wow. Wow.
So the comfort is secondary once you have become a ruler. I'm just wishing that current leaders will also understand that a point comes where your comfort becomes secondary only after the consideration of the people.
Mr. Ta Oko, summation, one sentence.
This year we'll see me taking Nigerian kings regalia on international exhibitions, and I promise NTA as my home, you will come with me. From Ethiopia to the Caribbean to the global African community, our kings will follow us and go out, and we have a vibrant cultural diplomatic package from Nigeria.
Thank you.
So we they come.
Thank you.
Well, thanks for having me. Two things straight away. We have described the beauty of Nigeria's palaces and regalia, but there's something we need to do. We need to convert it to a tourism and traffic attraction that brings tourists here, and we also need to market it so that it can put some money in the pockets of Nigerians.
Interesting. Thank you very much. I've been talking with Ta Uko, Pan-Africanist and cultural worker, and Mr. Oludotu Oshunsoya, cultural administrator. Great having you. Little wonder we're Nigerians. We're often better together, and we have rich ties that bind.
Together we win.
Indeed.
Yes,
Ubuntu.
yes.
We'll see you again tomorrow. Royal palaces and regalia. All of us here, it's bye-bye. God bless Nigeria.
Okay. Have a blessed day.
Thank you.